Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Phillips. I'm the founder of World Childless Week, and I'm really excited because it's the first webinar we've got for World Childless Week 2020. I'm excited and I'm also nervous. We have two guests tonight who are going to be talking about writing, and I'm going to let them explain it all to you because they obviously know the ins and outs and exactly how to perfectly explain it to you. So I just want to say welcome Annie Kirby and welcome Meriel. It's really lovely that you're both here. And yes, I'm going to now turn off my video, turn off my audio and leave it all up to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. It's so wonderful to see so many people here and people from all over the world as well have logged in, which is amazing. So my name, as Steph said, is Annie Kirby, and collectively, Meriel and I, we're Words at Heart, and we run Writing for Wellbeing workshops and webinars for people who are childless, not by choice. So what I'm going to do is just introduce myself briefly, and then Meriel will introduce herself, and then we'll sort of get on with some activities and talk you through those. So I'm a writer, a professional writer. I've been writing seriously for about 15 years. But when I realised I wasn't going to become a mum, I'm sure you can all relate, those of you, or all of us here, that was a very difficult time, and I found I couldn't really write at all about anything, let alone about childlessness and my feelings and emotions about it. As I started to feel better and come to terms with my situation, I started to just scribble things down in my notebook, just words, just emotions, phrases and sentences, and then increasing that a little bit and starting to write a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. And I've just found writing to be such a helpful way for me to get my emotions out onto the page. And once they're on the page, I can sort of untangle them and understand them a bit better. And I've just found it so valuable to be able to do some writing. It's been so amazing for my well-being and my kind of ability to cope with this situation that I really didn't want to be in. So I started Words at Heart because I wanted to be able to support other people who are childless, not by choice, to explore using writing in the same kind of way. And I asked Meriel to come on board as well to help me so that I wouldn't be all on my own. So I'm going to just hand you over to Meriel to introduce herself.
Thank you, Annie. My name is Meriel, and I'm a teacher, counsellor and a writer. I wouldn't call myself just yet a professional writer in the way that Annie does, but I do write every day, and it's made a huge difference to me. So I am the other half of Words at Heart. It's really great to be working with Annie again, and it's great to have all of you here for this webinar as part of World Childless Week. And I'd really like to thank Steph for giving us the opportunity to do this webinar for you all. It's great to have so many people and from all around the world, which is wonderful. I found, as I said, that writing has made a huge difference to my well-being, and I write every single day, mostly on my novel. I've managed to finish the first draft of one novel, which I did as part of a creative writing course, and I'm now working on the second novel, and I do a bit of writing on that every day, but I also do writing for my well-being in different ways. I do journaling, and a bit later on during this workshop or this webinar, we're going to talk a bit about journaling and give you some ideas for that. And writing, all the different kinds of writing that I do has really, really helped me to heal from childlessness. It's made a huge difference to me. It's given me something that I love doing, whether it's writing bits of my novel or writing for well-being like journaling. It gives me a way to try and work things out, so they're not just spinning round and round in my head, but they're out on paper, or I can see them and make a little bit of sense of them. And it's just enjoyable. And I think one of the very first pieces of writing I ever did as an adult was about childlessness. And it was published in an anthology of short stories that are based on truth. And I was too scared to put my name to it. And this was about 5 or 6 years ago. I was too scared to put my name to it. So I asked for it to be published anonymously in the anthology. And I think that's one measure of how different I feel and how much I feel that I've healed. And if I was doing this again now, I would put my name on it, and I would be proud to write about being childless and how that feels. And I wouldn't want to be anonymous anymore. And I think that really shows how things are different for me now and how writing has helped me with that. And I'm really looking forward to writing a little bit with all of you today. And yes, as I say, welcome. It's just really brilliant to have you all here. And as you may know, World Childless Week has daily themes. And we've been thinking very much about those themes and wanted to incorporate some of them into the work we're doing today. So we're just going to talk a little bit about the themes of World Childless Week and how we brought them into our workshop, into our webinar.
So although we won't have time to do sort of an activity for each theme today, we did, as Meriel said, think about them collectively. So today's theme was our stories, and if you've been on social media, on Facebook or Twitter, on the website, World Childless Week website, you will have seen people sharing their stories. So we have an activity that will be near to the end of the webinar, which you can take away with you, just some ideas and techniques to help you get started thinking about writing about your own childless story, if that's something you want to do.
Another theme is the theme of diversity, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. It's a new and very important theme in World Childless Week this year, and one that impacts me personally as a queer and neurodiverse childless person. Childless people, as I know more and more, are a diverse group. In no way are we homogenous. And sometimes the things that make us different have had an impact on our childlessness, and sometimes they haven't. But not one of us has had exactly the same experience as anyone else. And I think it's really important to honour the differences between us, the different journeys that we've had, and the way that our diversity has impacted our childlessness. And that's certainly been the case for me, that's happened to me. And we're really keen at Words That Heart that our workshops, our webinars are open to childless people of all genders, all ethnicities, all ages, all religions and none, all sexual orientations, and to people with and without disabilities and health issues. Our uniqueness means that each of us has a unique story and each one of us matters. And we're aware of the differences between us as well as the similarities, and we honour and respect those. So that we can all feel comfortable being here, we will gently challenge any non-inclusive language, and we welcome challenges ourselves.
So Wednesday's theme, I think, is ageing without children. That's something that will affect all of us. We don't have a specific activity in relation to that theme, but what we did want to say is that we think of writing and the things that we write as being our legacy as part of that. So it's kind of on our minds all the time, that you know, what we leave behind will be things that we've written. Among other things, it's one of the things that we can leave behind that's meaningful.
Absolutely, it really matters to me to think that I will leave behind my writing, and that's something that I find very, very comforting. The next important theme of World Childless Week is Men Matter Too, and we've always been very keen and clear that our workshops are open to all genders, and we welcome people of all genders to come to them, and we would really like to hear stories from men and from trans and non-binary people. But if there's any out there, please do share them with us. We'd really like to hear them.
Comments that hurt. In previous years, this has also been a theme for World Childless Week, and it was actually the inspiration for the name of our workshops, Words That Heart. We thought about words that hurt and the comments that people say to childless people and about childless people that hurt us. And we just wanted to turn that around and talk about ways in which words can be a healing thing. It's not necessarily that grammatical, but Words That Heart, it's meant to turn the hurt around, and it's meant to sort of combine the healing and what we all have in our hearts. Hopefully we can put and get out of ourselves and get it down onto paper. And the final two themes, we are worthy and moving forward. So those are the ones that we'll be focusing on most in our activities today. So I won't say too much about them. I think they're self-explanatory, but they tend to be themes that are quite evident in the activities that we do anyway. I think, would you say that, Meriel, in that they're quite common themes when we do workshops and webinars? So we recognise that writing about childlessness can sometimes bring up really strong emotions, and we respect that. It's quite a challenging thing to write about. But what we do want to do today is focus on the positives, on our self-worth, our worthiness, how we can move forward in a positive way. We'll be doing some free writing activities. We'll be doing another activity which is a bit more structured. You can see where those activities take you. I think it's important to say that not every activity will work for every person. So if we suggest a technique or an activity and it just doesn't work for you and you don't write anything, that's absolutely fine. Not writing anything is a completely valid response to any activity that we suggest. And on a different day, you might feel differently about that activity or write something completely different to what you write today if you write anything. So it's all very flexible. Everybody's different. Everybody responds differently. Other than the kindness and consideration towards other people in the webinar, there really are no rules about what you write and how you interpret the suggested activities that we give you.
Cool.
Mary, have I covered everything? Or are we ready?
I think you have covered everything. So shall I move on to doing our warm-up?
I think so, yes.
Brilliant. Just before we do a quick warm-up, which you can see the questions have popped up on the screen, I would say that a bit later on in today's webinar, we're going to ask people to have an object to hand, one that has positive associations or memories attached to it, because we're going to use that for one of the activities. I don't know if you can see we've got ours, and we've got Annie's tennis ball and my crystal. If you haven't found anything and you would like to take part in an activity where you'll be writing about an object, then please do see if there's anything near to you, or anything in the house that you could get, or you might not be at home. But just to say that it's really important that it's an object that has positive connotations or positive memories for you. That's not what we're doing now. I just wanted to give you a heads up in case you hadn't got that part of the message. What we are going to do now is a quick warm up. And I would invite you, if you want to type any of this into the chat box. We probably won't have time to read any of them out, but people will be able to see what you've written. But you don't have to. That's only if you feel comfortable. It's absolutely fine to just do this piece of writing for yourself. So to warm ourselves up with our writing, what we'd like to invite you to consider are these questions. And you can answer them with a word, a phrase, an image, or if that question doesn't speak to you or doesn't feel right, just leave it out. It's absolutely fine. So the first question that we would ask you to think about is, who am I? Again, a word, a phrase, an image, nothing, it's absolutely fine. The next one we'd ask you to think about is, why am I here? Now that's a big question. This could be, why are you here today? This workshop, at this webinar, or why do you feel you're here? What do you feel is your purpose in life? Again, answer it in whichever way feels right for you. What do I want to get out of this webinar? What's important for me to get out of this webinar? And what's brought me joy or comfort in the last week? And I'll just say again, this activity and these questions are completely optional. You can answer one, some, all, or none, or think of another way of warming yourself up, sorry, or introducing yourself. Please do only type things into the chat box that you're happy for the webinar participants to see. I'm just going to give you 3 minutes to have a go at doing this activity, either on paper or in the chat box or in any way that you like. Thanks very much. going to give you 1 minute left. So if there is anything that you'd like to put in the chat box, now is your chance. And it's so lovely to read what everyone's putting in. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to bring this warm-up to a close, but feel free to keep popping things in the chat box if there's something you'd really like to say. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Annie for the next part of the workshop.
So the next activity is called two really quite scary sounding words, but we're going to break them down. The technique is called acrostic poetry. So quite intimidating words, and we're going to demystify them a little bit. So let's start with the word poetry. Poems, and if there are any professional poets out there, I apologise, poems are just lists. They are lists of words or thoughts or sentences or emotions. That's all they are. They are just lists. They don't need to rhyme. They don't need to be sonnets or do anything fancy like that. So the poems that we'll be doing today, the little poems that we can give you to work on, it's just a list. So if the word poem feels a bit too difficult, just try and think of it as a list instead, and that will help you. So the other word, acrostic, that is just the word for the technique that we're going to be using, and you can see the example on the screen in front of you. And this is what I'd like you to do now, is take your notepad or your device if you're working on a device, and to write your name vertically down the page, leaving a little bit of space towards the left side. So you can see the example here that mine and Meriel's names have been written down vertically on the page. So the acrostic technique is literally you use a word, and in this case we're going to be using our names, but you could use an emotion or anything that you wanted, really, a theme, a pet or something, an animal or something like that. You can use anything you want, but the letters of the word from the first letter of each word or each line of the poem. And we're going to start with a very simple little activity, just using one word per line. And I'll go first. What we're looking for is kind of positive, affirming words, using our names as the prompts to write these little poems. So what I came up with is affectionate, nurturing, nice, intelligent, excellent. And Meriel, were you there? I can't see you.
I think a signal must have gone and she's disappeared.
Okay, well, not to
reappear.
Not to worry, we'll carry on because hopefully she'll be back soon. So, so again, we've got one here for Meriel. So the words that she came up with are magical and enterprising and realistic and imaginative and energetic and lovely. And that's the activity that we would like to ask you to do now. I'll just go a step further for you. And what we would like you to do, if you feel comfortable with that, you could do it literally as a list of words as we did on the last screen, or you can do it in this format, which we quite like. So as we say here, my poem using this technique: my name is Annie. I am affectionate, I am nurturing, I am nice, I am intelligent, I am excellent, I am Annie. And I'll read Meriel's for her as well, as she's not back yet. My name is Meriel. I am magical. I am enterprising. I am realistic. I am imaginative. I am energetic. I am lovely. Welcome back, Meriel. She's back. Yay.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's not a problem. What we can do now is we can spend 5 minutes working on these poems. Now, it's actually quite challenging sometimes to think of a word that matches the letter. I'll leave this screen up for a moment, but when we start the activity, I'm going to go to another screen where we've got some words that might help you. You don't have to use the words that we put on the screen. You can use any word you like, as long as it's positive and affirms your worth. If you have a very long name, you might want to shorten your name or use a nickname. If you have well, actually, yeah, so it's fine to use a nickname or anything you want to make that a bit easier for you if you have a very long name, and that will be quite difficult for you. So we're just going to spend 5 minutes now writing a poem in this format. And if you need me to come back to this screen, let me know by putting a comment in the chat box. And you're also very welcome to share what you write in the chat box as well. But I'm just going to move the screen on now and then mute myself for 5 minutes. And there'll be a list of words to help you and maybe inspire you, but do feel free to use whatever words you choose. This is just to help you, not to force you down that route. So now I'm going to mute, and we'll spend about 5 minutes working on our poems, or lists if you prefer. have about 1 more minute to go on this activity. It's wonderful to see all the amazing, positive, wonderful, creative words that are being shared in the chat box. And for those of you who are just writing privately at home as well, I know that you will also be choosing some brilliant, positive words to describe yourself. Lots of creativity around Y words. I think I saw Yarnaholic, which is pretty amazing. We're already running a little bit late because we talk too much, so I'm going to move along now and just show you another example. So this obviously is We Are Worthy. This is a We Are Worthy poem, and we're worthy because we are all of these things that we have written in our acrostic list poems. Meriel and I have both done another example, slightly more complex in structure, but still using the same technique of using our name as prompt. So what we'll do is we'll just share these with you quickly before we move on to the next activity. So when you get more with this technique, if you want to, you can choose to rather than just have a very short word or a phrase, which is fine if you want to make slightly longer sentences or have slightly more complex thought processes represented. So these are our moving forwards acrostic poems that both of us has written, and I'll share mine and then Meriel will share hers. Amazing but true to think I've come so far. Never in a million years did I imagine, never in a million years did I hope, but I wake up in the mornings now and the emotion I feel is happiness.
So my poem that I wrote to have a go at writing a slightly longer acrostic was My life is my own, is what I make it. Each day has potential for something good to happen. Reaching out, reaching in, I trust myself to feel what I feel. Each day has moments of sadness too, learning and loving and letting go. And I think one of the reasons I wrote that poem was because there were long periods of time that I didn't think that anything good was going to happen. I didn't think that I could have agency over my own life, and I didn't trust myself to feel what I feel. So now I feel really grateful that things are beginning to change and have changed.
Thank you, Meriel. I wrote my poem today actually because I was reflecting on how far I've come in the last 10 years. And you know, I never thought I would have anything positive to say about myself. I never thought that I would wake up feeling happy again. So it's, you know, it's lovely to be able to be here and to be able to share. So I hope that those are examples that you can take away with you when you've got a bit more time to work through them and use this technique. And you can use any word that you want. You know, you can use happy as your prompt word rather than your name. You can use wonderful as your prompt word, whatever you want. And I can keep on, but I'm going to move on and pass on to Meriel now before we run out of time for the next activity.
So hopefully for this activity, you have got an object that has some positive associations for you, because we're going to spend a bit of time writing about your object. You can either do it now in the session, in the webinar, or you can do it later on in your own time, and maybe today just make some notes or jot down some ideas. Now, like I said earlier, the object that I've chosen for this webinar is this crystal, and that's what I'm going to be using as an example when I talk through this activity. It was given to me by somebody who was very important to me, and therefore it's something that I will always treasure. So please feel free to make notes as I'm talking and write down anything that matters to you, words, phrases, images, or even little sketches, because we're not all people who think in words. Some of us are people who think in images. For some of us, words don't come easily, and that's also fine. So hopefully you've all got your objects nearby where you can see it, pick it up, or if it's not big and if it's too big to pick up, where you can look at it. And what I'd like you to do, what I'd invite you to do, is to look really carefully at the object that you've chosen. Hold it in your hand, or put your hand on it and feel its contours, textures, temperature, and shape. If it's in your hand, what does it feel like in your hand? If you've got your hand on it, what does it feel like to have your hand on it? Does the temperature change as you hold it in your hand or as you touch it? I'd like to invite you to hold your palm open or take your hand away from the object and to really look at it. Hold it close to your eyes or far away, depending on what feels most comfortable for you. But look at it really intently and really closely. How does the light in the room shine on it? If you move it, does anything change? What colours can you see? Is it translucent or solid? Can you see anything through it? So now I'd like to invite you to lift the object to your nose or to take your nose to it. What can you smell? Smell can be a very evocative sense. And I wonder if what you can smell causes anything at all to arise in you. Now I'd like to invite you to open your mind and your heart to the object. What comes up for you? Any memories, thoughts, or feelings? These could be wordless or have words attached to them. Colours may come up, or sounds, or physical sensations. Did you buy the object? Did you find it? Or given it by somebody? How did that object come into your life? What I'd like to invite you to do now, and if you want to type in any questions for me in the chat box for anything you'd like me to say again or type in again about any of those prompts, what I'd like to invite you to do now is write down any words, sentences, or fragments of sentences that came up for you during that exercise. You may have written some down already. Just list them. There's absolutely no pressure at all at this point for any of it to make any sense at all. Absolutely not. And if nothing comes immediately, just put the point of the pen or pencil onto the paper or your fingers onto the keyboard and just see what comes into your mind, even if it seems to have nothing at all to do with the exercise. Or just look at the object and say what you see, or touch it and say what you feel. And I'm going to give you a couple of minutes now just to make any notes. Okay, so I hope you've had a chance to make a few notes and to jot down anything in those 2 minutes. And thanks to those who shared some things in the chat box. That was brilliant, really inspiring. What I'd like to invite you to do for the next, I'm going to say 3 to 5 minutes. We'll see how we get on. Is to play with the words, sentences, and fragments that you have already, and if it feels right, put them in an order on the page or on your screen that feels okay. You might like to start with one of the senses and go through the others in order. Or you might like to start with memories. You might like to start with who gave it to you or what it means to you, this object. There's absolutely no right or wrong way of doing this. You're not trying to form a poem or any other specific writing type. I'm going to read an example that I did earlier, and if it helps, you could use this as a model, but this is not how you should be doing it. However you want to do it is the right way. And again, feel free to use chat box to share any of your things. So this is one that I had to go at previously. So I hold the crystal. The stone is ice cold, but it warms in my hand, slowly. The crystalline edges dig into my palm. Looking at it, I see it's like a mountain made of ice, or a city of glass towers. It won't melt away, just as my memories of you won't melt away. It remains constant. I'm so grateful to you for all we shared, all we will share, for your constant friendship. I hold the crystal. So yeah, I'm going to give you now just 3 minutes to see if you can shape anything that you've already noted down into an order or a structure. And again, there is absolutely no right or wrong way of doing this. Feel free to do it yourself at home or to put it in the chat box. And if it's something that you don't feel you can do now, then you can do this whenever you like in your own time with the object you have now or with a different one. Yeah, let's just have 3 minutes to see what you might like to write. It may be that instead of sharing your writing, you just want to type into the chat box the object that you brought with you or that you got for this workshop. Sorry, I was speaking then when I was muted. We're going to finish this activity now, and thank you so much to all those who had a go, whether you did it now, whether you did it at home in your own notebook, or whether you're going to do it later. Thank you very much, and I'm going to hand over to Annie for the next thing that we're going to do today.
Thank you, Meriel. Thank you for all of the amazing words and objects that have been shared in the chat box. We've caught up a little bit, we're only running 5 minutes late now, but I'm going to kind of whiz through the next activity. This one, and in fact everything that we talk about now, is for you to take away and to do at home. Well, you're already at home, but to take away and to do in your own time when you've got time to do it, because we just don't have time to do these suggested activities justice in an hour-long webinar. So these are some of our favourite activities. And what we did say is that we would look at writing your own story, because today's World Childless Week daily theme is our stories. And I did this activity this afternoon for the first time. I deliberately left it to this afternoon because I wanted to show that you don't need hours and hours. It just took me a few minutes. What I wanted to do was to draw a tree and to use the tree to help me think about what I wanted to say about my own story. So you could use a tree, or another example might be stepping stones across a river. This will make sense in a bit when I click the slide on, or maybe a river with the bends in a river. Anything that you feel is a meaningful image. Now, I can't draw, I'm terrible at drawing, so I downloaded an image from the internet, but if you can draw your own image, your own tree, or your own river, you might want to use an image of a heart, something like that, whatever feels meaningful to you. And you won't be able to see this very well, but what I did, I'll hold it up now, so I printed it out, and I started writing at the bottom of my tree trunk. I'll show you, I've put the words onto the slide, but I started writing at the bottom of the tree trunk my feelings and thoughts about childlessness. So you can start anywhere you want. So I could have started with when I was born, but I particularly wanted to write about childlessness today. So I started at the bottom, and I just went up the tree, and I let my thoughts and my feelings and my emotions just come to me. And I click on, you won't be able to see it, but you will now if I click on. So I started at the bottom with wanting to be a mum and waiting to be a mum, and carried on going up the tree trunk and into the branches, still waiting. Infertility was like a bomb, having hope, having failure and depression and anxiety, having no self-worth. When hope became toxic, I couldn't breathe. I've got my little dog Yuki and Kiko. And as I go up the tree, my thoughts and feelings became more and more positive. As I've gone along in my journey of childlessness, writing is on here twice because it's so important to me. I made new friends in the Childless Not by Choice community, which has been so crucial to my well-being, to have other people who've been in the same situation. I have hope now, which is not like the toxic kind of hope for a child that's never going to come. And then I come back to happiness at the top. So I've whizzed through this. I downloaded this tree image from Pixabay, which is just a website where you can download free and images that you don't need a license for. You can draw a tree, you can draw a heart, you can draw a river, anything that you can feel that will help you use that image just to start triggering the thoughts and emotions. I literally just sat there with my pen and let the words come out. And I won't read it out because we really don't have time. But once I'd completed that part of the exercise, I then wrote this piece. It took me just a few minutes, and it was really just a question of putting those fragments together. So I just wanted to show you that, and I think probably what would be useful is perhaps I'll put this information and the stuff that we're going through now, we'll put it on our website. So we'll share our website address at the end. So be able to go on, and all of these activities that we're sharing now that we don't actually have time to do properly, you'll be able to go onto our website and have a look and pick up on those resources. So I'm going to hand back to Meriel, who's going to talk about journaling and some journal prompts for you.
Thanks, Annie. And I would say that if any of these exercises bring things up for you that are difficult, we will be sending out a follow-up email, and one of the things that we will include in that is sources of support, because sometimes thinking and writing about our own stories can be hard, and we know that. So please do keep your eye open for the follow-up email, and we'll be able to share those sources of support. And also there are things on our website. But yeah, journaling is something that I've done at varying different times in my life to varying degrees. Sometimes I've done it every day, sometimes only on an as and when basis, but it's something that's made a big difference to me, and something that I often recommend to other people if it's something that they feel like they would like to do. You can do these at any time, feel they'd be supportive for you. As I say, I used to do them very regularly. Now it's very much just when I feel I need to. I'm not going to spend all the time talking about them because we are running out of time, but here are some. If you are at a loose end and you're not sure what to write about, sometimes just gazing out of your window, what you can see, and describing it can be a nice thing to do. Writing a love letter to yourself. This can be quite challenging. It can be really hard. If you can just say one thing, and then maybe the next time you do it, there'll be two things that you appreciate and love about yourself. And then an activity which I've sometimes done in the past is writing down negative thoughts that I'm having about myself or my situation, and balancing them by writing down the opposite or positive thought. Something that I still do on a regular basis is a mind empty. If my mind is full, which it often is, I just write it all down. I don't structure it, I don't think about it, I just splurge it onto the page or onto the screen, and I quite often don't look at it again. And then finding an object, a bit like the one we did today, and really mindfully writing about it using your senses. So those are some activities that you can do. And then thinking of a few more, and this is something that you can do on a kind of daily diary writing basis, or again, just if you're having a particularly difficult time, is using these prompts. And the prompts that I like to use are, I know, I remember, I imagine, I want, I need, I am grateful for, I am here for, I feel. And we had a go at this at the beginning of the workshop today. You might, on any given day, only want to use one or two of these prompts, or you might want to use all of them, and either way is absolutely fine. So that's just some ideas you can do for journaling if that's something that you might find useful. And one thing that I really like with journaling is to get a really nice book to do it in. And I find that really supportive, is to choose a fantastic notebook. So I'm going to hand back over to Annie just for us to finish off.
Sorry, I'm unmuted now. One thing you might want to think about while we're just kind of wrapping up is what have you learned from this webinar, hopefully, if anything, and what writing activities do you think that you might be able to take forward and carry on working on at home? And if you feel like you want to share that, that's absolutely fine to share that in the chat box, but it's also fine just to think about that privately. Stephanie has agreed very kindly that if any of you who've taken part in the webinar today write something that you would like to share as part of World Childless Week, that we'll share it in a special blog post next week. It's completely optional. We won't be sharing anything unless you send it to us with your permission for us to share it. Our website address is here, wordsthatheart@gmail.com. We'd need it by next Monday, and we would just need you to let us know how you would like to be credited, either with your full name or just your given name or pseudonym or anonymous or anything that you want. anything that you would like to share that you've written in response to the webinar, either that you've written tonight or that you write through the course of the week or anything like that, we would be thrilled to be able to share those in a special blog post. Not quite sure yet whether that will be on our website or on the World Childless Week website, but we'll let you know if you submit something to us where you can find that when we publish it, and we really would love to hear from you. If any of the activities tonight have brought up any difficult emotions, Meriel, I wonder if you just wanted to talk about some of your grounding activities really quickly.
Yeah, if anything has been difficult or brought up anything for you, one activity that can really help with grounding and bringing you back into the present is to look around you and think of 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can smell, 2 things that you can touch. Okay, and 1 thing. Now I forgot what that last one is, but it will come to me in a minute, and we'll share this in some way with you anyway. And another one is to think about your breathing. Eat would have been great. Yeah, eat 1 thing you can eat. That would be great, because you know eating can be quite supportive. And another one is think about your breathing and to make your out breath longer than your in breath. That can be really grounding as well.
Thank you, Meriel. I know I sprung that on you, so
okay.
Thank you for being able to remember them all.
Nearly remember them all, not quite.
So we do send out an occasional newsletter, either once a month or every 2 months sometimes, depending on how busy we are. And we just share the occasional writing prompt and that kind of thing, and any news if we're doing webinars or workshops. So if you did want to subscribe, you can just go onto our website, wordsthatheart.co.uk, and scroll down to the bottom of any page and click on the subscribe button. I promise we will not spam you. You will hardly ever hear from us. But you know, we would love to be able to send you writing prompts and that kind of thing if you found the activities that we've done today helpful. And I think, if I haven't missed anything, Meriel, I think we have managed to get to the end only a few minutes late. Stephanie,
we've covered everything that we wanted to, just about. We had to speed up a bit towards the end, but thank you very much everybody for coming, and we look forward to seeing any submissions that we do get from today.
Thank you both so much. I really didn't expect I just didn't know what you were going to cover tonight, and I think all the individual exercises were amazing. I was like scribbling away to all of them, and it felt like even if one didn't pull me in, another one would, and it was like that variety that you gave people, I think was really inspiring. You can tell by the chat box how much everybody has wanted to participate and enjoy, and I think, you know, it's been an amazing webinar, so thank you so much for doing it. I'm really grateful to both of you.
Thank you. I mean, thank you, Steph, for inviting us. It's been a real privilege, and I'm just so grateful to everyone for taking part. It's just been amazing to see the chat box. I'm just so sorry that we haven't had time to be able to share and read out what people have put in the chat box, but I hope everyone has enjoyed reading the contributions.
You can always come back, you know. I'm just going to say now, the door's open. You've done it once, you can do it again. But no, it's really lovely. So I think you've concluded everything that you wanted to for tonight.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Thank you very much again for doing this. It's great to see, like I say, all the chat boxes going, and we'll say good night to everybody then. So thank you.
Thanks everybody. Thank you, Steph. Bye bye.
Bye.